And as the former president continues to campaign, the Secret Service is taking additional measures to protect him by using bulletproof glass. And it's now being used during his outdoor rallies. It comes following last month's assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service also temporarily shifting part of President Biden's detail to Mr. Trump. News Nation's Robert Sherman has been following the Trump campaign, joins us live now from Pennsylvania. So, Robert, security looking a bit different at these rallies now moving forward.
Yeah, the landscape has really changed, Kelly, ever since you had that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania last month. That was really the last time that we saw the former president having a big outdoor rally in a space such as that. When he holds this event here in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania tomorrow, this one is going to be inside, as you can see behind us. But the campaign does want to go back to some of those outdoor events at some point. And this is one of the measures that is reportedly being put in place in order to make that a feasible possibility, used on an as-needed basis. The shifting as well of some of President Biden's detail back over towards former President Trump in order to bolster his security there, which is something that has been put in motion ever since we saw former Secret Service Director Kimberly Nichole last month talking about how there were going to be bolsterings of the security detail there. Well, this appears to be a bit part of that. And what I would say, Kelly, is that as we've been on the trail with the former president, you have noticed that change in disposition when it comes to security. Granted, it has always been a very thorough process to go through Secret Service. Every bag is checked. There are no exceptions for any individual, but you have seen security be a bit tighter, some of these deadlines be a bit more strict in order to get into some of these events as well. It has looked like a completely different ballgame ever since last month. Kelly?
Understandable. Robert, the campaign trail now shifting to Pennsylvania, as you said. How critical is this state specifically set to be?
Well, I mean, when you put together all of the different maps and roadways to 270 electoral votes, all of these states become important. But Pennsylvania is really the most important that we've seen. One, on the one hand, because of the number of electoral votes, but also just with its swinging capabilities. And you see where the race stands right now. This is the latest Decision Desk HQ average of polls. Razor thin. I mean, when we were talking about President Biden versus former President Trump, you saw perhaps a slight lean towards the former president, but now you have it really neck and neck between both of these candidates here, which just underscores why we're going to see all these candidates on the ground in the Commonwealth so much. And you even saw former President Trump at this press conference he had in Bedminster yesterday, calling out Pennsylvania by name, the importance of the state and the importance of the electorate there and the issues that matter most. This was a bit of what he had to say. Take a listen.
I don't think there's any way in hell that somebody that's intelligent living in Pennsylvania is going to vote for somebody that basically will eventually end fracking, end fossil fuel. So whether it's Oklahoma or Texas or Pennsylvania, a big energy state, people don't realize that 350,000 people work in that industry. But maybe more importantly, they don't want to pay $9 a gallon for gasoline.
And that is a message we've really seen the former president trying to hone in on, especially in the last couple of days. He put a big focus on the cost of all goods and brought all of that back to oil prices and the need to, using his words, drill, baby, drill. That was a message that he hammered home again and again. And that really applies directly to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where we are right now. So this is a message that he's been really perpetuating in recent weeks. And with the importance of Pennsylvania, going to continue to be a major talking point for the Trump campaign. Kelly?
Yeah, we'll see if it's effective. All right, Robert Sherman, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.